Hi folks, Dave Career here. I'm going to show you how to use Node-RED today to put data in a database and get data from a database in a super quick and easy flow. So I have the Node-RED environment up, and I simply went out to Bluemix and clicked on the boilerplate for Node-RED and installed Node-RED, and once it was installed I opened up the application, and that's where I'm at right now. So very quickly we're going to drag and drop the HTTP node, and we're going to drag and drop the HTTP response node. So first thing I need to do is configure the HTTP node. So I'm going to configure this with an endpoint called put data. And I will wire that to the HTTP response node just so I have something that comes back to the browser. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go down and I'm going to find the Cloudant database node, and the node that I want is actually the storage node. So notice it doesn't have any outputs. This is simply going to store data in the database, and when you create a Node-RED environment in Bluemix using the boilerplate template, it actually loads with a Cloudant service. So I'm going to utilize that service to put data into a database. So let's configure that node, and I'm going to tell it that I want to click. I'm going to click and use the Cloudant NoSQL database that's already associated with my application. I need to give my database a name. I'll do something very creative, and I'll just call it Dave. And I'm only going to store the message payload. I click OK and deploy. I have my first flow up and ready, and it's deployed, and that will put data in a database. The next thing I need to do is figure out how to get data out of the database. So I'm going to drag and drop, again, another endpoint, and I'm going to call this one get data. And again, I need to send something back to the browser. So I'm going to put an HTTP response node, and I'm going to wire those up. And the next thing I need to do is go get the data from the database. So this time I'm going to use the Cloudant node to get data. Notice it's got input and output, and I'm simply going to drag and drop it right onto the wire. And I'm going to click and make sure that I'm talking to the same database. I believe I called my database Dave, so we want to read from the Dave database. And this time I'm going to do a search, and I'm actually just going to bring back all the documents. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to deploy it. So now we've effectively created an application that puts data in a database, and I've created another flow that actually goes and gets data from the database. So let's see if it actually works. So I'm going to take the URL, and I'm going to execute that first node flow that I created, and I believe I called it put data. And I'm going to put some URL parameters on there just so I can pass some data into it. And it looks like it worked. It sent the data that I passed into it. It simply brought it back to the browser, but it also stored it in the database. And let's just let's add another one in there. So now that I think I've put 2 records on the database, let's make sure that they're in the database and that I can retrieve them. So I'm going to call that second node flow, and I believe I called it get data. And there we go. I have just now effectively tested to make sure everything works, and I can see that this flow actually stored data in the database, and this flow actually retrieved data in the database. Thanks for watching.